Got him. That's a good one too. He is a good one. What's going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and in this video I'm going to show you, using my Fishfinder, how I found this fish and a whole bunch more that are with him. So, first of all, I'm excited about making these videos about fish finders. I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and I want to thank you guys who have give me a lot of input in the last video, and I'm definitely taking that to heart, and I'm going to really try to make these the best that I possibly can. So, if this is the first time you've seen one of my fish finder videos, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to put this camera facing the fish finder, and I'm going to go around this lake, and I'm going to show you how I find bass using a fish finder. I'm going to show you what bass look like as opposed to other fish like bluegill or crappie or bait fish or anything else. And hopefully by the end of this video, which is probably going to be a long one, hopefully you'll be able to better understand what you're seeing on your fish finder. Okay, so let me get set up and we'll get to rocking and rolling. All right, so first of all, this is a Raymarine Element, and pretty good fish finder. I'm not too excited about the mapping, but other than that, it's a really good fish finder. And what I typically, and the way I have my fish finder set up right now, is I have it set up the way that I typically recommend somebody who's looking for a fish finder get a fish finder who has at least these three things: mapping with a GPS, so it's got a GPS internal, regular fish finder, and down imaging. And so that's what we're looking at. We could change it to side imaging, but that gets into a really high price range, and a lot of you guys say just show us what you see on regular fish finder and down imaging. So that's what I'm doing. So anyway, so we're going to go around the lake, and I'm going to point out all the little things. I got my little trusty pointer right here because I forgot my pencil, but I've got my knife. And so I'm going to use it to point out what everything is. The biggest thing about fish finders is, guys, trust it. Trust what you see on your fish finder. It rarely ever is wrong unless you've got interference from another fish finder, either on your own boat or on somebody else's boat that's close by. Then you'll start seeing lines and things like that. All right, guys. One thing to understand, and a question I get all the time, is where is the boat as opposed to what you're seeing on the image? The boat is right here on this edge, is exactly where it's at. Anything beyond that edge right there is already behind the transducer. My transducer is right down here underneath this box, so I know exactly where the transducer is. When I go over something like these bait fish right here, look at their speed, 0.6 miles an hour. They look a little bit elongated, but that's probably bait fish or larger bait fish like a gizzard shad, something like that. But anyway, the boat is on this edge, and like I said, anything that you see that's moving this way, we have already gone over or it's already past us. So understand that. All right, some of the key things that you guys are gonna have to pay attention to as you're looking at this. Watch my speed. Your speed has a lot to do with what you see and what you don't see, and the detail that you see. When I am looking for fish, whether I'm in my big boat, whether I'm in this kayak right here, I like to go about 1 to 2 miles an hour, somewhere around that. Not very fast. I get the most detail, and I can really pick things apart going that slow. A little bit difficult to do in a bass boat, but it's a lot easier doing the kayak. And the reason I'm in my kayak today is I get a better image on the Raymarine Element than I do on the axioms that are on my boat. And I think it has a lot to do with the air and the bubbles that come out from underneath my boat and go across the transducer. And I've got this one set up just perfect for this kayak. So anyway, let's zip around. I want to show you guys something real quick. So I know this lake really, really good, and it's got a lot of cover and a lot of structure. You know, structure being the change in the bottom and a lot of drops and rocks and things like that. So I'm going to go over some fish attractors, and we'll see some more of these a little bit later on today because they're all over this lake. But I want you to look at what the difference between the regular sonar and the down imaging as I go over them. Now they're in 10 feet of water, 9.5 feet. Okay. There we go, we're going over top of them. Now let me use this image and I'm going to show you guys what's going on with this. Alright, so these fish attractors are made out of plastic pallets. You can kind of see a pallet right there on the down imaging. Look at it up here on the, hold on, okay, look at it up here on the regular sonar. It just looks like a blob. It almost looks like a stump. It's hard to tell exactly what it is. It's a really good image, but this is why I say that down imaging is so critical. I can separate the fish from the cover. So I've got a brush pile there, and this is what Raymarine is really bad at. It won't let me keep it for very long. But and you got bait fish in it. You got a little bit of small fish. I don't see any bass. There might be some like right out here. And a lot of times this is what bass looks like. Let me get my pointer. Sorry. This is what bass looks like. But they'd be a little bit bigger and they'd be a little bit more separated. So all right, let's speed up. All right, so if you notice, if you're watching the map as I go along, and I am a map fisherman. I fish, almost 90% of my fishing is done using a map. This Raymarine makes a map as you're going along, which is a good and a bad thing. If it hiccups while you're doing it, it screws all kinds of stuff up, and it's hard. It's for what I know, it's impossible to fix it once it screws up. But we just went across a point, the end of a point. You see, it came up and it went back down a little bit deeper. There were some bait fish on top of there. This is also some bait fish. Get my pointer. But this is also bait fish, and these are probably some type of a predatory fish, maybe bass, but they're suspended. And when we find bass, they're going to be closer to the bottom or close to cover, just because bass like to be that way, unless it's like I don't know, every once in a while they'll start suspending chasing, or it depends on the type of bait fish, but we ain't going to get into that. That's just way, way above everybody's head. But they like to be close to cover or close to the bottom and somewhere near bait fish. And another thing I'm noticing as I go along is all these balls of bait fish, not the little ones, but the bigger balls of bait fish are all about 10 feet deep. And so I'm just going to kind of remember that in the back of my head for right now. And then if it continues to be that way, then I'm going to stop focusing deep and go focus around, 11, 12 to 8 feet. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 feet. Anyway, so let's keep rolling. I want to show you guys a rock pile. All right, so this is a man-made lake, and before they filled it up with water, they put a bunch of rock piles around there. So that's what we're about to go over right now. We're in 22 feet of water. We're going to pull up. I'm going to try to go straight across part of this rock pile. See, I've already been across it once. And they put giant boulders in piles of air, which is great. You catch a ton of fish off of them. But I want to show you why this one is not a good rock pile. First of all, this right here, this is the thermocline. If you look real close, you'll see a color change. And so you got a thermocline right here, and that thermocline is like a barrier. Anything below that line right here is basically dead water. It doesn't have a lot of oxygen. It's not doing much. The fish don't want to be there. Most of them are going to want to be just above that thermocline. Unless there's grass, they'll be up shallow. If you look at where that thermocline is, it's about 12 feet deep. Now, the rock pile itself, and you'll notice there's no fish anywhere around this rock pile. There might be one little bitty one right there. I have no clue what that guy is, but there's not a lot of fish on this rock pile. And when you get in one that's got bass, it's going to have bluegill. It's going to have a whole bunch. It's just going to have fish all over it. So that's one I'm not going to stop and fish. Now, because that thermocline, and I've seen bait fish at 10 feet, and because that thermocline is at about 12 feet deep, 13 feet deep, something like that anyway. I'm gonna focus on 10 feet and shallower. So I'm gonna move up, get into this shallower water up here. I can go check these fish attractors right here. Once again, these are pallets, just plastic pallets that have been wired together in boxes, is basically what it is. Some of them have come apart because the wire's rusted and that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna try to sneak over top of it. Now, being that we're fishing so shallow, or the fish are so shallow, if you go over top of them and you see them on something like this, look, I split them. See, there's a few fish down there, just small ones. I split the fish attractors, but I just nicked one. And if you see something like that, and it's that shallow, and you just went over them with your boat, you might want to come back, and that's what we'll do. We'll come back to these fish attractors in 20-30 minutes and see if we can't catch one. But I'm sure there's bass on it. I bet you money there's a bass right there, and there's one up there. And again, it depends on your speed. If you're going really fast, those are going to be little bitty dots. You're not going to see a lot of detail. If you're going slow, 1 to 2 miles an hour, you get a little bit more detail, and you get to see that they're a little bit bigger. Another thing I look at is I look right here on the regular sonar. I'll get my pointer, and you'll notice there's 3 colors. There's blue on the outside, and then there's yellow, and there's red. And the more there's a third color in the center, the bigger the fish are, or the bigger the ball of bait is. So if I see a single fish and it's got a good red dot in the middle, then it's probably a good sized bass or carp or something like that. And it all depends on your color palette too. This is a different color palette than say what Lowrance would have or what Humminbird would have. But I always look for 3 colors. There's a little bit of bait fish right there. Now I know as I'm motoring around, I'm showing you these things on the Fishfinder. Some of you guys are going to want me to bring the camera up and show you guys what it looks like from above the surface. Well, that's what it looks like. It looks like water. It really does. It just looks like water because I'm offshore fishing. I'm not fishing close to the bank. I'm not beating the bank in anything I see right there because I wouldn't be using my Fishfinder if I did that. I use my Fishfinder out off ashore to find spots that fish hold on and find out what's going on under the surface. So you're not going to see a whole lot of me bringing it up and showing you these things unless there's something to see. Okay, so bear with me. All right, so I'm going around. I'm trying to stay somewhere close to 10 feet, 10 to 12 feet of water. Notice I'm getting down to 10 feet. See a little bit of bait fish, nice and small ones. Not interested in fishing for them because they're not bass. A few more bait fish. This lake is full of gizzard shad, so that's probably what those are. They're either gizzard shad or threadfin, but the threadfin are kind of small right now. Oh, the glare. Sun just came out, so it's going to be a little bit of glare. All right, I want you guys to see this spot. I've got this spot marked. This is one of my favorite spots on the lake. It's one of those places that people just overlook. But I've got 3 rock symbols that I've marked on here because that's hard bottom, and you'll see coming up here. And it's also a point. You'll see right here where it points up. Got some bait down here in the ditch, 10 feet deep again. Now it's going to come up a little bit. All right, there's some small, tiny bait fish right there, or just out of the signal. And then some more bait. We just came over top of the one spot. The hardest spot's out here on the end, and I'm gonna make a U-turn here in a second. A lot of bait. I love to see that. Bait. Now some of that might be bluegill too. It's kind of situated like it's it's on a hard bottom. There's a little bit of the cover right there, a little bit more of the cover, and it's got bluegill. I bet some of those are bass too. I'm gonna come back here in just a little bit and fish it. Again, it's too shallow. I'm spooking these fish as I'm going over them. My threshold is 12 feet. Anything deeper than 12 feet, I'll come back. I can fish immediately. But 12 feet and shallower, I always come back. It's just kind of my rule of thumb. Let's zigzag one more time across it. See how in the map we're just kind of zigzagging back and forth across it? I'm going to go onto the deep part of it. All right, here we go. We're coming up to it. Comes up. A little bit of fish right on it. Bam, there's the cover. You can see how it's hard covered. That's the dark red that's up here in the normal sonars it means it's hard. And it's probably a log. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact it's a log. I get hung there all the time. But you can see all the fish around it, and I guarantee there's some of those are bass. So we're going to come back and check that out here in just a little bit. It's just, and the reason I say I guarantee some of them are bass, they're not tight together like a ball of bait fish would be, you know, trying to protect themselves, or crappie would be like a big tall stack of, and if we see some, I'll show them to you, but crappie would be a big tall stack. It looks almost like a Christmas tree on it. So, all right, so I want to show you what a roadbed looks like, and I've got it marked. It's one that's pretty prevalent on this lake. But we're down in a ditch, 15, 16 feet deep, coming up. You notice that? See, look at that. We're coming up. We're at the top of it right now. Okay, and I'm not going very fast, and it's a pretty wide roadbed. And then it drops back down the creek channel starting right here. And it drops back down. And it's hard bottom. Look, there's hardly any yellow above this red right here. And that yellow is silt, or it means you're dropping, you know, when you're dropping it does the same thing. Hard bottom though. I'm gonna zigzag back and forth across it. Notice that's a little below the thermocline right here. So I'm gonna go and try to find a shallow spot that's above that 10-foot mark. Now, another key thing is once you find a spot like this, like a roadbed or something like that, you want to zigzag across it at different angles until you find that 90-degree angle that you're going to need to go across like a roadbed. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going from deep to shallow and back down, but I'm trying to hit it at about a 90-degree angle. Look at that one. That one comes up about 12 foot at the top, so it's not quite shallow enough. And I have to go all the way up into here. It's close though. Still no fish on it though. There's some suspended in the air just off of it. I don't think that's a bass though. Sometimes a bass will. They'll suspend off of a drop like that, but not in this situation. We are starting down into the ditch. This is the shallow spot of the roadbed I just happen to know, but we're coming up. We're about 10 feet, and look, you start to see fish just stacked up there. Look at that. Just stacked, and I guarantee some of those are bass. They may all be bass, but look at how scattered. They're not tight together. You know, they're either bluegill or bass or some type of a predatory fish. But bass usually will be closer to the bottom, unless I spooked them when I went over top of them, and they're just scattered along the top. Guaranteed those are bass. How big they are, the only way to find out is to catch one, or two, or six. But found the roadbed, went up to the depth that I've determined the fish are holding at. Sure enough, there's fish hanging out. Craziness. All right, so let's go back to a couple of these spots that I found. Let's go back to the fish attractors, and then let's go back to the hard point, or the whatever it was, the stump, the log. Anyway, that one little rise that we saw those fish on. Let's go back there, drag a worm, throw a crankbait, throw something I think that they'll bite, and then see if we can't catch something. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Let's go do that. There's a bite. Oh, nope. He never had the worm in his mouth. If he did, he jerked it clean off the hook. I caught him. Look at that. I caught him. Poor little baby bluegill. Oh, I know that wasn't the one that bit. I hope I didn't kill him. Sorry, that was not quite the intended species or size. Get out of that tree. See what I mean, guys? When you find them, when you finally find them after all that time running around looking for fish, it's so rewarding to catch a good one. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like button if you like it. Tell me what you want to see better in these type of videos. But more importantly, like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go ahead, catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.